So as they said, this is Why Go Publishing. My name is Alexis Shea. I am a young adult indie author. That's my book. It's super cool, I personally think. Some of you may be wondering, why am I the person giving this presentation today if I only debuted February of last year? I'm only giving this presentation because, one, I am the rare extroverted author. We are not a common breed. I know what I am. I am a weird unicorn that way. Also, it's not on here. My pronouns are she, her. I am giving this presentation today because I am passionate about indie publishing and publishing in general. I have an author advice page on my website. That's what that handout is in front of everyone. If you don't have one, there's more on the back. It's my passion to get people to follow their dreams. I don't care if you're trad or indie. It's not my personal preference. I chose what I chose, and I'll tell you why later. But I want to enable people that if they want to go indie, if they want to be hybrid, they have a better idea of what they're getting into, because it is an entirely different beast to be indie, and it's a lot. There's a lot of moving parts. So this is what I will be covering today. I'll be starting off with an incorrect statement about what trad publishing is, but I couldn't edit the PowerPoint in time. But it'll be the differences between trad and indie, the pros and cons. I did not memorize this list. A peek into the indie publishing process. This peek, it's multiple slides. I don't normally have this much text on my slides, but I want this PowerPoint to be something that people can look back on when they click on my author advice page. And it's a highlight of my indie author guide. It's on my website. It's literally just a PDF. You don't even have to send it from a newsletter to get it. It's like 5 pages. And then indie publishing tips and tricks, and then a Q&A session at the end, which again, if you do not want to ask the question out loud or have your question on camera, Q&A box is in the back. So we are going to start off with, what is trad publishing? I'm sure almost everybody here already knows what it is. Trad publishing is where a publishing house publishes you. You get an agent, either they or you query, which is where that incorrectness comes from. Remember, I'm indie. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to trad. Don't take my advice for trad. Speaking of advice, this is not professional advice. I am not your lawyer, coach, whatever it is you would hire. But you go there and they publish you. Awesome. But remember, traditional publishing publishes you based off of your marketability. A lot of people think that indie publishing isn't legitimate. They think the only legitimate way to become an author is to be traditionally published by a publishing house, big or small, which I think is fully incorrect. Both are legitimate, both are valid, both are excellent options. But when you are traditionally published, you are not being published because you are the best. You are so fantastic. No, you're being published because you'll sell, which is awesome. But there are plenty of authors out there who get rejected who are incredibly talented, or they're a part of a population that is marginalized, and they are rejected purely due to marketability, nothing to do with their skill set. Again, not to say that trad isn't viable, I'm just saying one's not better than the other. So the biggest pro of traditional publishing, according to people I talk to, because obviously, again, I'm indie, they pay for everything, which sounds fantastic to me, my wallet, and my husband. Unfortunately, I did not try that. If a publishing house is telling you, hey, you need to pay for your editor, you need to pay for your cover, it is most likely a scam or a vanity publishing press. If they are a proper publishing house, the core components of publishing are something they should be paying for. That is the greatest benefit, in my personal opinion. The second greatest is having access to your publisher's distribution channels. I have sold over 500 copies, or almost 500, pardon me, copies of my book. I'm in about 10 or 11 stores, and I did all of that purely through my own networking, meeting my own people. If I had a traditional publisher, one would hope that they would do that for me. They would get me in the bookstores. So that eliminates a lot of work for you as the author. You might get access to their marketing team. I've heard of plenty of traditional authors, especially debut ones, who did not get a marketing team. They still had to do the marketing themselves, which, let's all be very honest, is the worst part of this job. None of us like it. And then you get to sound legitimate. I hate this one, but it is a real thing. A lot of people don't believe you are a legitimate author unless a publishing house has picked up your book. And if it makes you feel cool to be trad, by all means go trad. Also, I forgot to say this in the beginning before we move to cons. If you have questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Do not yell it out, but raise your hand. I don't mind interruptions. Moving back into what I was talking about. Cons, you lose creative control. When I said earlier that traditional publishing means that you're hired or you're chosen for your marketability, your cover, your story, everything is going to be based around what does the market want, what's going to sell. Your publisher paid for everything, which means they've invested in you and your work. They want a return on that investment, which is totally legitimate. This is a business. Unfortunately, we live in a capitalistic society. Next con, trad moves slowly. You'll see a lot of the big traditional authors, they're only publishing maybe a book a year if you're lucky. And indie authors can publish as many as they can. I have plenty of friends who do this, that they publish 3 or more a year. I am not one of them. I fear them and respect them. But that is one of the big cons, in my personal opinion. It's the difference between like a giant big box store trying to pivot and a little mom and pop shop. As an indie author, I am a small business. I can change my whole strategy in a day if I want to. Trad can't do that. Also, you might face lots of rejection. If that's something that impacts your mental health, if that's something you know about yourself that you can't deal with, it might not be for you to try and be trad, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Last one is lower royalties. They need their piece of the pie. They're the ones who invested in you. Those royalties go to them. Obviously, you still get some, it depends on your individual contract. So my personal preferred method is indie publishing. It's where we publish our books ourselves. We are responsible for all of the costs, doing everything ourselves, or hiring people to do it for us. I actually never had any desire to try and be traditionally published, so I have never been in the query trenches. I respect the people in the query trenches. I'm not one of them. I just didn't want to. I wanted complete creative control. Indie publishing is great for those of us who are control freaks. So as I said, we are responsible for every single aspect. Traditionally published books and indie books can both put out bad books. I do also want to say that. There are plenty of trad books out there that are horribly written and horribly edited, but only indie books get that bad reputation for some reason. I don't know why. I'm assuming it has something to do with small business versus big business. So you'll notice that the first pro and the first con on this table are the same thing because it is both a pro and a con. You have complete creative control over everything. Every single aspect of my book was mine to design, mine to decide. The con of that is that every single aspect of my book was mine to design. I don't know what the markets are doing. I have to go to other people to figure that out. I have to do my own research. Every single choice in my book is something that I have to learn about, and that can be a lot. You could also, if you want, just throw something slapdash together and put it out. There's nothing wrong with that. Next pro, you can move faster. As I said, two of my mentors have published, I know it's in the triple digits, but I cannot tell you anymore how many books they published together, but I know it's in the triple digits. They've been doing it for 20 years. It's where I learned a lot of this from, and it's how I managed to avoid a lot of mistakes. But they can move fast. You get to keep all the money that you earned. You're investing in yourself, your work, so every single dollar that your book makes is yours to keep. Next, the benefit, you are your brand. You can do whatever you want. If I'm on a panel, I don't have to worry about how my answers will reflect on my publishing house. I don't have to worry about getting fired or whatever. I am only representing myself, which for some people can be a bad thing, but for me, I'm usually managed not to be too terrible. Next, con, you pay for everything or you do it yourself. There are a few social media influencers out there who will tell you that self-publishing is free. They are wrong. This is not free. You will either pay in time or you will pay in money, but you will pay in something. I have heard people say, well, you can just throw some words on a cover, edit it yourself, format it using Amazon, you put it on there, you use Amazon's ISBN. You can do that. But if you are looking to be able to sell it yourself and have a really good product, you have to invest in it. This is a business just like any other business. After many, many years of saying I never wanted to be a business owner, here I am in front of you today, a business owner entirely against my will. Not really, I chose this. I'm just mad at myself. So you want to still have a quality product. My book, my cover is made by a professional cover artist. I had a professional editor edit it. I did not want to be one of those indie books where you look at it and you go, yeah, I can tell. And I'm like, thanks. I love how you said that. Next con, or pro, depending on who you are as a person, you have to make your own network. As I said, every bookstore I'm in, every connection I have, I made myself, or I made it through another connection. For me, this is slightly a pro, because as I said, I'm a rare extrovert. I enjoy it. But the actual hitting the pavement and trying to build the relationships with bookstores to get myself in, that can be hard. And you'll face a lot of rejection or a lot of ghosting. And then last, this is the con for everyone, marketing. Trad authors frequently have to do this too, especially if they're debut. It depends, again, on your individual publishing house and your contract. Marketing sucks. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This is like the worst part of the job for all of us. I'm fairly prolific on social media and I do enjoy it, but at the same time, I don't like that I have to do it. And it's like, oh, quit social media. I'm like, so interview, Trad publishing, someone publishes your book, they pay for it. Indie publishing, you publish your book, you pay for it. But you get to keep creative control over everything. What this is trying to say, but I did not realize the dimensions I was working with, both are valid. You have to choose based off of what you want. What are your goals? If you think that you can do trad publishing and you're marketable and you're ready, do it. If you want complete creative control and you think you can handle the process that I'm going to go over in detail soon, do it. If I could do it, you could do it. I'm not particularly genius at this. So, let's start. I will be doing, oh yes?
Will the slide deck be available?
Yep, it's actually already posted. If you went there right now, it's posted. It'll look slightly different because it converted from PowerPoint to Google Slides and I have no control over that. I looked at it and went, it's still legible. So I'm going to do this next part of the presentation under the assumption that you are ready to indie publish. You are stoked. This is what you want to do. If you have questions about traditional publishing, I cannot help you. I can give you misinformation, but I cannot help you. So the first step that I wish I would have taken before paying somebody to help me with it, learn the craft of writing. I'm sure a lot of you already know it. If you're illustrators, I can't help you. I'm not bad at drawing. I'm just not good at drawing. You also want to learn about self-editing. People talk a lot, well, if you know how to write, you know how to edit, you do not. Writing and editing are two separate but related skill sets. And I had to learn about editing from my editor. It was expensive, it was fun. Next, you're going to want to start your social media presence, website, and newsletter about a year before launch is the general consensus. If you are closer to launch than that, the second best time is now. You don't have to have a social media presence. I'm not telling you that's a requirement. I'm telling you that's the easiest way to reach your readers nowadays, depending on your demographics, but most everybody is on social media now. It's very difficult to escape it. You also want to have a website and a newsletter. I've heard a lot of people say your newsletter is one of your best ways to make sales in the future. I am green. I have a newsletter. I have somewhere over 100 subscribers, which I'm proud of after a year and a half. But I haven't gotten sales from it yet, but everyone else says it's amazing. The website, I think, adds legitimacy to your name. If people can look you up and see your website, oh, look, they're real. And as I said, indie authors get a bad rep for being illegitimate. I try to fight that as much as possible. Once you have this done, you have your manuscript. This is also assuming your manuscript is written beginning to finish. You would have alpha or beta readers read it. Alpha readers generally are reading your rough, horrible first draft. Every first draft is generally kind of horrible, unless you've been doing this a long time and maybe yours isn't. And then the beta readers are the people who read it usually before it goes to editing, because you want to catch as much as possible before it goes to editor, because remember, you're in charge of paying your editor and they charge by the word. So the more that you can keep them from fighting, the more you can cut ahead of time, the better. Beta readers can be people that you recruit yourself, or there are paid services that can get you beta readers. Next, you're going to hire an editor. When you are looking for an editor, you want to find somebody who has done work before, or you tap into your network of fellow authors and you see, hey, what editor have you used? What editor have you heard to stay away from? It's how you can find a good editor through word of mouth. Most editors will do a 1,000 word sample edit for you so that you can see, hey, do we work together? Do I like their style? Simple. Oh, yep, I said it again. Editing and writing, two different skill sets. There are different types of editing. There's copy, dev, line, probably another one that I'm forgetting. There's plenty of places where you can learn about the different types of editing and which one works best for you. I won't be covering that now. Mine is usually a heavy copy edit though. So they're editing, how does it sound, how is your story held together, and then she adds a little bit of developmental work where it's like, hey, you need to work on this idea a little bit more. Or you called that person this name, and then in this chapter they're a different name. Oh. Sorry, I keep thinking I need to pick it already. Yes, so once your book is off to your editor, they have it in hand. This gives you time to do other things. It's usually about 4 to 6 weeks. My editor for the Shield, it took about 4 weeks. So during that time, prep your book if you haven't already. Write the blurb on the back of the book. Remember, the blurb on the back of your book is not just a summary, it is marketing. Your entire cover, every single aspect of it is marketing. They say don't judge a book by its cover, they're wrong. The cover is there to be judged, as is the blurb. There are places you can keep your blurb professionally edited for marketability. It's what I did on that website that's on the handout I put in front of everyone. I link them there. You want to get your cover done and then determine the dimensions of your book. So what do I mean by determine the dimensions of your book? When I said you have complete creative control, I meant it. Is your book going to be 6 by 9? Is it going to be some wonky size? For me, I went to Barnes & Noble with a ruler. It was super awkward, and I just sat there measuring YA books. It was weird. It was a clear ruler, so I'm like, maybe they won't notice. I don't think they noticed. Nobody confronted me. And most YA books are in the 8 by 5 range. Originally, I thought it was like 8.5 by 5 1/4. Turns out that's not a standard size. Don't try to order non-standard sizes. It will ruin everything. Oh, buy ISBNs. You want to only buy them from Bowker. I hope I'm saying that right, because that's how it's spelled. You do not want to get your ISBN generally from a third party, because then they have control over that ISBN. Yes?
Sorry, what was that dimension again?
5 by 8 or 8 by 5. Whichever number goes first, it's definitely those two numbers though. The young adult books tend to be a little bit smaller. Some of the adult books are bigger. There's just different sizes based off of your genre. It's usually based more off of genre than anything.
This may be really dumb, but
That's okay.
always in 12 font or, and
That's a good question.
Any comments about type of font?
So in terms of font, I chose mine based off of accessibility. So my font is, I think mine's just plain old Garamond or something. It has the serif, it has it on there, it makes it easier for your eye to follow it. I wanted mine to be a little bit bigger, so I paid a formatter. I have to be real with you. I don't remember the font size that they went with, but I said I wanted to be slightly bigger so that you could read it, you could actually see it. So it'll be based, again, off of your genre, your wants. What do you want? I know that people who have dyslexia tend to be able to read fonts that are sans serif better, which is why most of my marketing materials are sans serif. But a book is generally going to be serif because the lines help your eye follow it. But really, you can do whatever you want. If you want to put your book in Comic Sans, you can. It'll be awful, but you can. Yeah?
Yeah, I actually can answer that question.
Yes.
Between 14 and 18 point font.
Really?
Awesome.
Yeah, depending on what audience you have will depend on what size you're doing. So if you're doing kids, it's larger. If you put it online, the bigger the better. So I come from the world of webcomics, and we do everything between 14 and 16. And yeah, that's because people are going to be reading it on different mobile devices. So if you do it larger, like a 16 is usually where I'm going. People can read it on an iPhone, they can read it on a tablet, and they can read it on a computer screen without it adjusting too much and messing up your bracketing or your framing. But if it's a long form text, you can do whatever size you like because you can play with those sizes with whatever app you're using to read those books.
But then it makes the book that much longer.
It will
So-
make it longer if it's
That
digital.
is one of the issues of having complete creative control.
Yeah.
Can I jump in about that?
Go for it. Like I said, I paid a formatter.
I was a book judge for 3 years for independent publishing of Northeast, and you could tell who skimped on like making a smaller font or making tighter margins because it immediately made it look unprofessional. So I would say it's worth the investment of having the correct font and correct margins as far as a traditional publisher so that better sales.
So I was working with 12 and the standard, around the edges, but then is there that much concern about how your word count and your length of book? Without, you also don't want to intimidate if you've got a middle-aged, a middle school, or a young adult. You don't want it to be too thick, because that might intimidate, although, I don't know.
That is again the beauty of being indie though. Some people become indie because they want to publish their 100,000 plus word book, but a traditional publisher won't necessarily touch that because it costs more. They have to invest in it. You as an indie, you can do whatever you want. I have a friend who's very successful at this. She does YA, her books are this thick. And it's a trilogy, and then the second one's a duology, and I think they're still about that thick. They're monstrous. I love them, I have all of them, I'm obsessed with her. She knows that it's fine, we're cool. But I would say, if you're worried about it, I would look into it more. I don't have the details because for my first book, I decided I was learning too much and the fire hose was, I was drowning. So I paid a professional, and I'm like, I want industry standard. I want it to look good. I have seen other indie published books where, yeah, they have the weird small margins and their font is weird and it just looks not great. Yeah.
It's called the Ames Lettering Guide. Look it up.
AME.
AMES. It's called the Ames Lettering Guide. That will be your professional North Star for lettering.
Things I need to look at later. Because I do want to try formatting myself at some point, but I also don't want to. It sounds awful. My friend said it's not that bad, but I don't really know. I have to sit there and go, where were we? I guess we were down here. I think I talk about formatting later, but not nearly in this subject. Yeah?
One more real quick. Where do you find formatting? Like, do they have more roles than just formatting? Or is that just
I found mine through Enchanted Ink Publishing. So they help indie authors. They have a whole plethora of editing services and then formatting services. So I find most of my people through word of mouth, because when I'm at in-person author events, I meet other authors. We talk. I'm a member of multiple group chats and we share things with each other. We also warn each other. So say you're an editor and you're crap, everyone in the area is going to quickly know. If you're an event and you're trying to scam people, we're going to tell each other. It's just the nature of the beast. So that's what I do. I'm lucky that I live near Enumclaw, and we, on the first and third Tuesday of every month, there's an indie author meetup. Well, it's more creatives, whatever you want, and I've learned a lot from the people there. So you learn from your network, or you can just Google and read reviews. But most everyone I've found has been through because I'm scared. I don't want to just give people my money. This one's pretty easy. If you're gonna buy ISBNs, buy them from Bowker. You want to have control over your own ISBN. The free one you get on Amazon can only be used on Amazon. If you're only selling on Amazon, that's totally fine. That is your choice. I wasn't. I bought mine from Bowker. They are expensive. Last time I looked, it was $250 for a 10-pack, and you need one ISBN per format of book. So for example, my book, The Shield, is an ebook, audiobook, and paperback. That's 3 ISBNs. They come out with a special edition, that'll be a 4th. And then set up your LLC before you publish if you're going to be doing one. I am not an accountant or a tax anything or a lawyer. This is not professional advice. I did it because I grew up in an entrepreneurial family and anyone can be sued at any time, including authors. I do have one friend who is currently being sued. I can't remember why, but you can be sued. So I have that little layer of protection. Plus I get to say I own a publishing house. It only publishes me, but A. Walter Publishing Company exists. You want to create your marketing materials for your launch and get your author table ready. Your author table being your design for what you're going to sit behind at events. On that handy dandy flyer, I have a book that I recommend people read. It's called Power Author by Ben Wolfe. And I also have a packing guide for all the things that I bring to author events. It's actually the live Google Doc or Google Sheet that I use when I am packing for an event. And I also have a bunch of advice on the page that my friends taught me. But you want to get that out of the way before your launch. Again, remember this presentation is assuming you have never done this before. If you have, you can ignore that. Once you get your editor's feedback, so it's now been 4 weeks, you want to review it, study any weaknesses they point out. For example, if they say you're not doing a good job at show, don't tell. Go read up on that. How do you get stronger? When you are an indie author, I don't know if trad has the same level of control. You can take or reject as much of your editor's advice as you want. The rule of thumb for me, though, is if I'm paying a professional, I'm paying them for a reason. But if they are editing you in such a way that it removes your voice as an author, you're free to not take that advice. You can take or leave what you want. I took most of mine, especially all the grammar. It was nothing like getting your first book edited where you realize, I don't know how to use a comma after all. I thought I was really good at it. I'm not. Incorporate any of the edits that you are going to self-edit. You could also have another reader read again here. I don't know if that would still qualify as a beta reader. And then format your book. This is how much I wrote on that, so I appreciate everybody else with their advice. But the next step after you're done with your edit, format your book or pay someone to do it for you. And then that is when you would have your book proofread. Your proofreader should come after your formatter, because your proofreader isn't just looking for typos, grammatical errors, inconsistencies, they're also looking for formatting issues. Then you would go back to your formatter or yourself and have it updated. This is one of the unfortunate parts about hiring a formatter. I did have to pay for revisions afterwards. It's usually by the hour, which wasn't too much. When I show you the cost breakdown, I also will explain to you why some of it is expensive. And maybe you can keep from making the same mistakes I did. Next is upload it to wherever you're going to publish. I publish mine through Ingram Spark and KDP. I kind of wish I would have done draft to digital and KDP, but I didn't, so it's too late now. Well, it isn't, but it would take a lot of time. So you upload it to wherever you're going, and then you would order proofs. If you're doing paperbacks, you always want to get proofs so that you can review it yourself. I'm glad I got proofs so far ahead of my launch because I have a sketchbook in the back. It's my main character's drawing of her friends. They were amorphous black blobs. That would not have looked good in the final edition. So always get proofs. And then launch your pre-sale. There are lots of rules about your pre-sale, like through Amazon, for example. It's so stupid. If I recall correctly, if you publish through KDP, you can have a pre-sale of an ebook, but not a print book. But if you published a KDP through Ingram Spark, you can have a pre-sale of a physical book. So most of us just do the ebooks as our pre-sales. Again, that's the drawback of being indie. You have to figure out what works best for you. I don't know if that's still the rule. This was a little while ago. Then both trad and indie do this. You get ARC readers. ARC readers, for those of you that don't know, it stands for Advanced Reader Copies. It's usually a copy of your book you give out to people anywhere from 1 to 3 months, depending on what you want to do, before your launch, and those people read your book and they write reviews. At least you hope they write reviews. If you get a 20% return rate on your ARC readers, that is fantastic. A lot of people are doing it for the free books. We do our best. I used a combination of NetGalley and my own form to get people, so I was able to control who would actually read my book. There is a NetGalley co-op. If you've heard of NetGalley and you're like, my gosh, that is incredibly expensive, it is. But there's a co-op through Victory Editing, and it was $57.75 a month when I did it back in January 2025. Much, much cheaper than the hundreds of dollars to try and get your own account. Then you will order physical copies of your book. My personal rule of thumb is 3 months. They will tell you 4 weeks. They are lying to you. Not only are they lying to you, some of the books are probably going to arrive damaged. Whether you get them from Ingram Spark or KDP, you are going to get damaged books. You will be enraged. It is the nature of the beast. I had one person whose books got left out in the rain. Sorry, it was right before her launch. I'm like still traumatized for her. So I always say 3 months, which sucks, but it takes time to print books. This will save you money. As I said, in my launch of my book, I was determined to publish on my birthday because I am very particular, and that's what I decided. And suddenly it had a longer time, so I had to publish through Ingram Spark, and I had to pay for expedited printing, expedited shipping. I lost money on my first 100 books. I mean, I might have profited like 50 cents. It was not great. And then profit, maybe, someday. I haven't broken even yet. Remember that indie publishing is a small business. Most small businesses do not turn a profit for even 5 years. It depends on you, it depends on what you've done, it depends on your luck. As I said, I'm from an entrepreneurial family. It's feast and famine sometimes, which is why this is my side gig right now. Don't freak out. Nobody freak out yet. I'm going to explain about this. So this is how much it cost me to publish The Shield. This is just for, really? This is just for the core services that I chose to pay for. This doesn't show my printing costs, my marketing costs, the character stickers that I didn't need to pay money for but I wanted, stuff like that. So my beta readers, I chose paid beta readers. It was $75. You got anywhere from 3 to 5 readers, etc. Editing services. Alexa, why does this cost so much for your 65,000 word book? This also includes coaching. Some editors offer a coaching service. This includes a mini manuscript review. A mini manuscript review is where they take the first 10% or 8,000 words of your book, depending on where it lands, and they give you a full edit, and then you can see, oh, this is what I'm doing wrong. It was very helpful for me as a first-time published author. I'm not doing it again. That'll save me some money. I think those are the main things that went in there. Proofreading, again, is by the word. My next one will be cheaper, not just because it's shorter, but I'm used to switching proofreaders. My cover art. I chose to have a professional cover artist. Mine was $399, which is actually very good. I've heard of $1,200 cover art. It depends on your budget. What do you find? There are places where you can go to get it cheaper, which I'll talk about in a minute. ISBNs, 10-pack, $295, like I said. Formatting. Formatting was expensive because when I told you to do a standard size, because I did an unstandard size first, I had to pay for retrims. That ended up making it cost a lot more, and I had to have them change things multiple times. I'm trying to keep you from making the same dumb mistakes that I did. Make new mistakes, make exciting mistakes. Try not to make expensive mistakes. And then the NetGalley co-op through Victory Editing is $57.75. This is on the site if you do have interest in that. But why did it so much cost? That sentence right there. As I said, I made a bunch of expensive mistakes. I paid for coaching, I did other things. There are ways you can do this cheaper. So, learn to do things yourself or trade services. A lot of indie authors will barter. I have one friend, the one whose books are this thick that I told you I'm obsessed with her books. She does character art for people. It's like $30-something per character, and you get licensing for whatever you need. And she does that to raise money for her audiobooks. I have friends who are looking to break into editing, and they're already trained, they just haven't done it paid before. When you make these connections, you're able to get it cheaper through bartering. You can also evaluate multiple price points, find people who are newer starting out. If you're new, they're new. Make mistakes together. Or do what I did and go to an expensive professional because you're scared. You can also use services such as Fiverr.com. Some people use Fiverr to find cover artists, to find illustrators. I just told people we're going to ask about that, and I was like, cool, I wrote a novel. So I asked around, and a lot of people said Fiverr.com is a great place to find freelance artists. You can also buy pre-made covers. A lot of cover artists will have pre-made covers that are just like the essence of the genre, and you can buy those. Sometimes they're only $50. They'll like obviously modify the title and stuff. But it's up to you. Spend as little or as much as you want/can. So my publishing tips and tricks continue. Make friends with other indies. I know I have said this to you multiple times. I'm saying it again. The more friends you have in the industry, the more you can learn, the better you can be. We help each other find different people and warn each other of scams. My friends have helped me become a better writer and business owner and marketer. I would not be even nearly as far into my new publishing career without my mentors and without my friends. We're all figuring it out together. The beauty of the indie author community here on the West Coast, I heard the East Coast has a different vibe. I can't speak to it, but here we tend to treat each other as coworkers, if not just straight out friends. So there generally isn't a rivalry. I've never met another indie who tries to put other indies down. We all like, oh, did you see this event? Did you apply? Oh, this is great. Like they even put me, so I'm spice free, which means there is no sexual content in my book. They put me at a table next to someone who had like 4 to 5 chili pepper level spice. And instead of being like, ugh, why did they put me by her? We just marketed together. It was the holidays, so we said we're sugar and spice, naughty and nice. There you go. You just work together. It's wonderful. It's my favorite part about this. And then, as I said, having a community makes this a lot easier. You have a lot more fun. It's my favorite part. I didn't know I was going to get this whole community. My community was destroyed by COVID because who wasn't? Who didn't have something fall apart? But now I have a community again of people, and it's my favorite part. I mean, the readers are my favorite part, but like they are too. Again, not an accountant, but I think it's a great idea to form an LLC and to look into that and to keep your finances separate. I'm not saying you have to. I'm not telling you to do anything because I don't know what I'm doing. But I did. If you're able to, do lots of in-person events. Those are painful for my more introverted author friends, but I've noticed a lot of them are able to hide behind your table a lot. Even I want to hide behind my table. And it helps me get out to readers and again, meet more fellow authors. Don't be afraid to reach out to bookstores. Do not drop off unsolicited books, unless they tell you you can, but even then that's technically solicited. We don't want to be rude, we want to be carried by bookstores. And unfortunately, when you're an indie author, people are going to judge the group by the few. And so I try my very best to be the best version of an indie author I can be. I'm still doing myself, I'm a person. So I try to be very good. I walk in and I'm like, hey, if I want to get into this store, what do I need to do? And most every person will tell you, oh, there's a form, there's an email. I usually check their website first, but no one cares if you ask in person. And then my last little tip and trick on this slide is continuous learning is key. I have kept up with learning more about writing, self-editing. I've been recently learning more about screenplay writing. I'm never going to write a screenplay, but it's a different type of storytelling. I've read books about how to be better at sales, how to be better at marketing, branding, all of that. You want to keep learning because if you're an indie, you're doing it yourself. You have to learn or you have to pay somebody who knows more. And the less we're paying other people, the more money we get to keep, if we get money. So cool, I'm really glad that this has been just cooperating with me. But the good news is, this is on that handout that was in front of your chair. I'm Alexa Shea, the website has an S, I used to run an art shop. alexashays.com/author advice. This PowerPoint will be there, my guide will be there, a list of a bunch of stuff. I like it. So does anybody have any questions that hopefully I can answer, but if I can't, there are people here who clearly know things that I love that. Yes?
Can you go back to the idea of formatting? What all is involved in that?
I don't know, what is involved?
Hi, I'm Kat. I run a small publishing house, just like you, and I do
Mine does
comic
not for
books.
formatting.
Yeah, so I format all the time, and it depends on what your readership is. What type of book are you making? A picture book. So you're going to do a larger, like a square or maybe a larger rectangle. So you need to know what kind of template you're going to be building and what your live area is going to be. All art and wording needs to be in your live area or it will be cut off when they print the book. So
Like this.
yeah, like that. So for formatting, it really depends on what you're making and what size of book you're going to do. And then you, like, how is it going to be bound together? If it's going to be saddle stitch, you don't have to worry about spine design. If it's going to be perfect bound, you do have to worry about spine design and how wide it's going to be. And what we didn't really talk about too much, I work this way, is I hire printers to make my book. So I have to get proofs from the printers and see how they make their books, how good they are. And yes, you're always going to get at least 10% of your books messed up somehow.
Sometimes 75%.
Sometimes your mileage may vary on who you use and where it's coming from. So yeah, that's a really big question. Like I make comics, all mine are A5 digest size, so I make them larger in a A4 size and then swoosh them down to A5 because those ratios are going to stay consistent. Another family of paper sizes are Bs, and you can be within B4, B5, B6, and they will swoosh down the ratios correctly. That's why text matters, because if you put hard copied text into your image and then you swoosh it down, that text will also get smaller.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, and oh boy, is that a headache. So when you use something like Adobe Illustrator to make sure that you're getting your ratios and your text and everything correct. I could go on, but this is not my panel.
It sounds like we need a panel about formatting.
And it does sound like it. Well, we can ask for that next year.
I would attend.
Yeah.
And what was your question?
It's just kind of answering yours. So I hired an illustrator, and she did all that for me. She was wonderful, and she put all my text in there. She did any formatting that needed done, and she did the sizes. So if you hire somebody to do it, I have have no idea how to do it myself, so that would have been, it would have been a big old mess. But
Yeah.
she did an amazing job, yeah.
I'm a
That's my
professional
solution.
cartoonist, so I live in that program all day.
Could I have your card, please?
Sure. Love it. See, networking. Yeah, my solution to a lot of stuff is throw money at it.
Hi.
You were first.
You and then you?
I think you had a
So
question.
hybrid publishing is, can you speak to that at all? And do you give up your rights to the hybrid, or does that depend?
From my understanding, and I'm not an expert of hybrid publishing, it depends. Some people go indie and then they go trad. They keep their ownership over their indie work unless there's something in the contract. So that would generally, unless there's somebody in here who's hybrid published, which would be helpful. From what I understand from the people I've talked to, you usually keep that unless it's specifically in your contract. Because there's one indie author who hit it big and then they bought that book and they started publishing his work as traditionally published. So that varies very much based off of what is the publisher wanting. I've heard that publishers, trad publishers, don't always care that you're an indie author. And like, well, I've had all this success. They're like, cool. That doesn't help. What's this book you're trying to sell me now? So I don't think it hurts or helps.
Well, Alexis, I just want to say that I was under the impression that you really are going to find very few traditional publishers that would be interested in you if you've already gotten your own work out there.
Possibly. It
I thought
depends.
that was like a real rare.
Like, it is breakout, like Legends and Latte started out as indie. Dating and Dismemberment started out as indie.
Dating
So-
and dismemberment?
It's some sort of monster romance
I'm
thing.
learning a
It
lot
sounds
on this.
hilarious.
This day.
Yeah. There were, so it depends, but it's just the same with trad. Not every trad author is going to become a huge breakout hit and rich. Not every indie author is going to ever get a trad deal. I don't know. I think it depends on the individual publishing house.
I actually thought it was a technical thing about if I own the ISBN, then a publisher's not going to be able to.
Well, then they would just change the ISBN, I think.
Can you do that?
From what I
guess
understand,
legally,
you
I suppose,
can,
yeah.
but I haven't had to do it yet, so don't quote me. But my understanding is, yeah, you would just publish it under a new ISBN. Because that has happened where people got traditionally published by a small publishing house, and then that publishing house went under, and they had to be able to republish it under a new ISBN.
Oh,
Yeah. Sorry.
0 stars.
So, to add on, you know Raina Telgemeier, who did Smile and Guts, who's won multiple Eisner Awards?
I gotta get out more.
Oh wow!
Me too.
Okay. She's the second best-selling young or middle grade graphic novel artist behind Dave Bilkey, who does Dogman. Anyway, so Smile, which she's won an Eisner for, which is like a Tony Award for graphic novels, was originally a zine, and she worked for Scholastic Graphics doing the Babysitters Club series as a
I know
graphic
that
novel.
one.
Yeah, you know that one. And she did those, the ones that came out in the mid-aughts. And then she eventually pitched Smile to her own editor at Scholastic, and it became a graphic novel series. So, indie can become trad, but it's been networking.
And trad can go indie. Some trad
Yeah.
people go, I want this out now, and no one's buying it. But I haven't done that yet. You have one of them.
Yeah. I just want to dovetail in your recommendation to hire editors. I'm a member of the Northwest Editors Guild, and you can go to edsguild.org and look for whatever kind of editor you need for your project. There are visual editors, developmental editors, copy, line, proofreaders, etc. And there is a find, an editor sort of search engine on that.
I love that resource. Mine was my friend vetted them, and I went, okay, she likes them. Let's see if I like them. That was yours.
I was just curious how it works for an indie publisher to get into libraries.
So that's super fun. I just got into 2 libraries, and I only cried for 20 minutes because it was my childhood library. So I know specifically how to do it on the Libby app, and the Libby app is the app that libraries use to have their ebooks and their audiobooks out. I haven't quite figured out how to get into a physical library yet because the funding stuff that I'm not going to go into because I'll have a meltdown. But if you get people that you know that want it to go in the Libby app and they tag it as, my phone's right there. They tag it as, it's something like Notify Me. I think, yeah, that's what it is. It's the Notify Me tag. And if enough people tag your book as Notify Me, the library takes that as a sign of, oh, we need to purchase this book. And then they'll purchase your book and it'll be on Libby. if I learn about physical, I'll post about it.
Yeah, just as a follow-up to that,
Ooh, if you know,
if
awesome.
you go to the Library of Congress website, they will assign you a number that makes you eligible to be purchased by libraries. And it's free, you just go on, they got me mine in like 3 days.
Good to know, because I've
But-
only done the.
So you
ebook.
have to get that number, it has to be on the copyright page, and you have to send a hard copy of the book before it publishes to kind of be 100% eligible for that.
I like that. Mine's only on, it's in Snow Isle and Pierce County. Mine's ebook and audiobook. So that will help you with the ebook and audiobook. It sounds like that will help you with the physical book, which I haven't done yet. Yes?
Just to follow up on that, for those working in picture books, you might look at Darcy Pattison's work, because she is indie publishing picture books on an ongoing basis. She has a recent book about being a professional indie publisher of picture books. And part of what she talks about in the book and in some of her videos is things that make it more likely for libraries to pick you up. Where you need to get reviews placed, what awards you need to put your books up for, things like that. So Darcy Pattison specializes in this. She makes her living doing this as an indie publisher. So I would suggest her as someone to look into.
That would be good, because again, I don't have a picture book out yet. It is a future dream, so that's helpful for me too. Are there any other questions that I or somebody more knowledgeable can answer?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment to you. The publishing world is changing. There's no longer a stigma about self-published or not self-published. You'll have somebody who, and I think someone mentioned that you'll be traditionally published. You're still working with that publisher, but you can then create your own work as an indie and work in tandem, and it's no longer an issue. And I also recently heard publishers are actually looking for people who have a category of books as self-published, because it sort of shows your seriousness, like you can sort of follow through. So yeah, it's no longer a hindrance.
I think we have 2 minutes left, because there's the hard cutoff, unless you want to stay behind. Any other questions, comments? I've been enjoying learning from all of you too, so I'm
Just one comment. So if you were here for the earlier editor questions in the main room where they're like, oh, we're looking for shorter, snappier books. Do you know what that translates to? They are cheaper to print and make.
Yep.
So they're looking for ways to lower their overhead. So just remember that when you're making your own books, yeah, taking it to trad is great if they're small and snappy, but no, that means that you're trying to save money. This is coded language for, we're trying to save money because the publishing is on fire. So,
And to be fair, with things like the current shipping fiasco,
yeah.
it's understandable that they're trying to save money.
Yeah, paper is super expensive. I had to delay an entire comic book debut a year because of paper going nuts during COVID. And that was a headache.
And then
for a different
imagine
Yes.
Yeah.
Straight from Moose.
And now with the Strait of Hormuz, yeah, all of our shipping is
such a
just.
fun decade to be alive. Not boring. I like boring. I've never said that before in my life. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we call it a wrap? Awesome, thank you. This is a great